guest here today, Richard Fromberg. Welcome to the stage, Richard.
Thanks, Arthur. Thanks for having me.
And my pleasure, or our pleasure, and our other coach for today, Bram Lagrou. Welcome to the stage.
Hello, ready for some action?
Yeah,
Let's
I'll
get
talk
it.
about action. Now, who would have thought running this podcast in the middle of nationals for tennis here in Tasmania? I'm in Launceston here for the under 18 and unders tennis tournament, nationals, end of year tournament with my son. He's actually playing. He's actually playing right now, so it's very, very tempting to kind of like glance at the scores, but I'm going to do my best and focus on the session today. But the connection with Richard goes way back, and I've been talking about how we are the average of the five people that we spend most of our time with. And so Richard is definitely one of those. We are working on a project together. If anyone's that's watching right now can probably put two and two together. But Richard and I have been working together on this project for how long now, Richard? About 8 years?
Yeah, well, we missed a couple when you went back to South Australia,
Yeah.
but I guess it started when your son was 11 or, or even earlier,
Younger,
10 maybe.
yeah, it's about
Yeah.
eight. But who's counting, right? Like it's gone so quick.
Gone fast, yeah.
Yeah, it's a long time. But definitely the spending time getting to know Richard and his wonderful family, and having a close involvement with our family and my son has really developed a relationship where, in a sense, I bring the fire, and Richard brings the ice, and those two, working together in harmony can be quite effective at times, but there's probably times when it's not so effective. So I'm going to hand over to you, Richard, in terms of professional sports, giving your background, your top ATP player at the time. You spent 10 years in the top 100. You reached ATP ranking of 23, I believe. Four titles, was it? Four titles,
So,
Richard? Yep, yep. So a great career and a consistent Davis Cup representative for Australia. So amazing. I'm actually in your neck of the woods. Well, I'm in also in Tasmania, and also part of the Tasmanian Hall of Fame for sports as well. So an amazing career. And so being, working with you on our project is quite a privilege. But just on that concept, fire and ice in sports, where have you seen it work well and maybe not work so well?
um, it depends a little bit on the personality of the person you're working with. Um, I think sometimes young kids do need an extra push and to have that sort of tough figure that can be positive and encourage them, but at the same time make sure that they're really focused on the job at hand and make sure that they don't waste time. I went through that a little bit with my parents, with my mum sort of being the softer one out of the two, and my dad was always super busy with his work. And when he took me for tennis, he didn't want to waste any time. So it was strictly business, and it was pretty tough. And he wanted to get a good result. So I've experienced a little bit of that side of things as well.
Well, he did a fantastic job, and Mum did a fantastic job as well. So they've done they brought up a successful person in life and also sports athlete. What about your time, maybe in because you've also headed up the AIS for a little while, and you've been coaching players. Does that exist like in the professional ranks? I mean, we think about fire and ice. You got the hard figure. In juniors. I mean, but surely in the pro ranks, is it still like that?
It can be like that, yeah. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a whole mix of personalities, and some players don't need it. They've got that sort of self motivation to go out there and do it themselves. Some players need a bit of a kick up the backside at times. So it all depends, and it's about trying to work out how to get the best result with the person that you're dealing with, where their strengths and weaknesses are, and trying to respond accordingly.
Hmm. Very good. Bram, I'm going to hand over to you some questions for the great man.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Appreciate it. I'm always curious to hear from great athletes like yourself there, Richard. Like, what really has brought the most joy in your career?
Well, from a tennis point of view, I think it was my Davis Cup efforts, really. Playing for Australia was something very different, very special. Um, I was a very strong clay court player when I was young, and Australia weren't seen as a very strong clay court playing nation. So every time we had away ties, the home nations would choose their service, which was clay, and I was sort of the first choice. My first ever Davis Cup match happened to be a final, which was against Andre Agassi in 1990, and just an amazing experience. 10,000 people, and he was sort of a superstar of the sport. He'd broken through, and maybe 3 or 4 in the world at that time. And we had a great match. We had a 5-set match, and that was I lost, but certainly still I look at that as one of my highlights just from the experience. But yeah, Davis Cup gave me a lot of highlights, and one in particular that stands out was against Italy. We were playing the quarterfinals, and I won my first match, which was a really tough match. I think we lost the reverse singles. We just got through the doubles and then lost again in the reverse singles. So I had to come out and play the deciding match at 2 rubbers all with, obviously the Italian home crowd, very loud and really supporting their players. And I played one of the matches of my life in that match. And yeah, it was just great. They wrapped the flag around me and doing laps of the court, and just an experience that I hadn't had before. So really, really good memory.
So that was the good stuff. What about the most devastating moment?
Oh, there's always devastating things that happen, and but one in particular, I guess, was I always really wanted to make the quarterfinals of a Grand Slam tournament, and I was in the 4th round a few times, and I had match points one year. The draw had sort of opened up, and I was playing the New Zealand #1 player. His name was Brett Stephen, at a night match at the Centre Court at the Australian Open, and I kind of expected to win, but I knew it was going to be tough. I think he had beaten, from memory, Boris Becker along the way, so things had sort of opened up on my part of the draw, and we got into a real battle. I had match points in the 5th set on my serve, and I ended up losing 9-7 or 10-8 in the 5th set or something like that. So yeah, it's funny because you sort of never forget, a few sleepless nights, but that would have been to play Pete Sampras in the quarters, which would have been an amazing thing for me. But anyway, that's the way it goes. A point here and there makes a huge difference, and I can also look at things that were in reverse like that as well, but you still sort of can't forget about the ones that get away.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm curious as well, if it really comes down to, let's say, what makes or breaks a champion. I wonder, how is your analysis of technicalities and skills versus the mind game? And even maybe personality, for all that matters.
Good question.
Yeah. Well, look, the mind game is by far the most important. The technical side of tennis is sort of built through years of training and preparation. You sort of don't really look to make technical changes through the course of a match. You just make small adjustments. It might be, your ball toss, or you might decide to spin the ball more or flatten it out more. Just little things. Sometimes they're also subconscious things, and it's just trying to get into the zone, and you're just trying to beat your opponent. So it's a very mental sport, tennis. It can take a long time. It can take up to 5 hours in a 5-set match. And it can also be, an hour or less, and you really got to, try and take your chances in a match, play the big points, go with your strengths. For me, it was my serve and my forehand. I'd really focus on those two things when it came down to the crunch, and be prepared for a really tough match every time you walk out on the court. That was also a very important thing to do.
We're talking about Agassi before. I can definitely, after reading his book, he definitely had some fire in his life with his father, that's for sure. But who was the ice in his relationship, Richard? Was it what's the gentleman's name? Balotelli? Was he the ice? But he was a fiery guy as well. Someone must have given him some kind of soothing, calming influence. Do you know by any chance?
He didn't really settle down emotionally until he was a bit older. Late 20s, even after 30. He
actually, Steffi would have been probably.
Yeah, Steffi was a very positive influence, without a doubt. But he had a lot of ups and downs through his early years. He was a bit of a brat, but an amazing talent. The best returner serve in the game at that time, without a doubt. And but he sort of was in and out of tennis a little bit, and he wasn't the sort of guy that would actually train very hard. He would be well known to just rock up and play his match and then take off in a helicopter and go back. He was completely different. No one really saw him in the locker room. He was massive for the sport and almost bigger than the sport in some respects. But and then he had some injuries along the way, a really bad wrist injury, which put him out of the game for a year. I think overall that was probably a positive for him, because he sort of came back and made the decision that he's going to really knuckle down and be really serious about his tennis. Darren Cahill was his coach for a while, Brad Gilbert before that.
Oh, right.
So he took on the best coaches that he could find. And he won quite a few Grand Slams after he was 30 years old, and it was because he made a full commitment to tennis.
Wasn't it interesting? Like Cahill, that name is synonymous with success in a coaching, and he was a very good player, is all my understanding. But in a coaching capacity, he's Sinner's coach right now too, right? Is that right? Yeah. Yeah,
that's right. Sinner's got maybe 2 or 3 coaches, and Darren Cahill, he goes to the big tournaments. But I had a little bit to do with him in Davis Cup, and he was a great player. He made the semis of the US Open, but he was a bit unlucky with his body. He had really bad knees. He retired at a young age because of his knees and went into coaching, and so took his coaching very seriously and became, maybe the best coach in the game.
I'd love to actually hear, as you talk about all these coaches there, and how you referred to Agassi, that he had a bit of emotional challenges along the way in his career before he then kind of mellowed out, as he said. I'm just wondering, like, the influence of a coach as a pro athlete, where does it actually make the difference, like in that realm, the mind game, the emotions, and so
on? It can definitely make a huge difference, and it's not necessarily all about the coaching. It's also a little bit about just a player having someone there that they believe in, and they feel like that person believes in them. It gives them, confidence to try and, beat good players and cause a few upsets. And, as a young player, most young players, they sort of, when they first start out, they look at other players and think, gee, they're so good, that's going to be so hard for me to get to that level. But having someone that keeps reinforcing that they've got what it takes, they've got the ability, and go out there and don't try and just give this guy a good match. Try and beat him. You've really got the tools to beat him. I want you to try and cause a big upset today. But little things like that can really have a big impact on a player. And I know my first introduction to coaching was the Australian Institute of Sport. I started coaching there when I retired. And I had that scenario with a young player, Todd Reed, who was a really good junior. And I kept sort of letting him know that he had what it took to become a good player. And he finished as a 19-year-old in the program in the top 110 or so. And he'd actually beaten 2 top 10 players in the world, because he sort of he had that mindset that he could do it. But I think it was partly because I just kept reinforcing that he had what it took to, to beat these sort of guys. So it can make a big difference.
Believe. Probably some good messages there from leadership and coaching. I mean, many of our viewers are leaders of business, managers in larger businesses, and this whole fire versus ice. You kind of have to know when to turn up the heat a little bit in a correct manner. But it's interesting. I think in my time and working in different environments and different cultures, sales pressures, etc. In my early career, it was actually more about fire. It was all about get out there and go see as many clients as you can, and there's always this sense of urgency. The Bunsen burner was cooking away, and you're like a hot tin roof, getting out there and seeing as many people as possible. But then in the meeting though, you had to then be calm and vigilant, and so you got to swap hats. But from a leadership perspective, I must admit, my effectiveness as a leader over time, even though I've grown up in that fire environment in terms of sales culture, coming through the banks back in the day, as I gained more experience in leading people, managing people, but then becoming a business owner and leading my own people, it's the ice that is actually way more effective. I have found knowing how to apply that soothing leadership style, and if you can relate it to like a glacier, it's like an unstoppable momentum when a glacier is just moving, the weight in behind that, but it's just doesn't look like it is. But you're actually that effect on a business where you're creating so much change in a real calm and cool, methodical way, versus this chaotic business on fire kind of way. You lose people, right? You in that fire you can burn people, not necessarily deliberately, but just in that environment people can hop off because it's too hot. You just jump out. Whereas that glacier, feel it's cool, it's calm, but it's moving, and it's like when you get your business moving like that, it can it can become unstoppable. So yeah, look, we talked about fire and ice. We talked about your influence on my life, Richard, in the top 5 people I spend most of my time with. The highs and lows, as Bram's spoken about there. The question that I would like to ask you is, in terms of what goal you have, like what drives you now? Like you've been top 100 for 10 years. You've actually got a winning record against many great players. I think Federer's one of those as well. You got a winning record against him. Is that right?
We're 1-1, actually, officially 1-1.
Oh, okay, cool. So even Steven, but you've actually defeated almost 10 world number ones through the course of your career, which is unbelievable. Probably in the modern age, you've only had probably like 2 or 3 world number ones in the last 20 years. But back then, they were obviously alternating a little bit more. First of all, let's ask that question. How do you get up for that? That's quite an achievement. How do you? Is it a step change? Is it like all of a sudden you got to do things differently? Do you stick to your strengths, like you said before? It's like and really leverage those, and like in business, do you focus on your strengths rather than trying to cover every weakness? Like, what was your approach?
My approach was give yourself a chance, and the tournaments that I beat a lot of these top players weren't necessarily the most important tournaments for them, but they were very important for me. And you don't know how your opponent is feeling. They might have had a bad night's sleep. They might have a niggle. So as long as you go out there from the first point and really give yourself a chance, and with the mindset to try and win the match, then you've got a chance to win. But as I sort of spoke about before, if you go out there and think, oh look, I'm playing such and such, I hope I give him a good game, it's not going to go your way. So yeah, I was pretty good at that, and giving myself a chance to beat good players. And I probably caught a few of those wins where those players weren't at the top of their game. But you just never know unless you're ready to go. And right from the start and have a real crack. And they were really important wins for me because obviously the draw opens up if you beat a top seed early in the tournament. So a lot of those tournaments I went pretty deep in, and that gave me the chance to maintain a good ranking.
Brilliant. Hey, I've got one question as well there before I think we probably will be getting to the end, but because of a lot of latest developments, like advances made in technology, nutrition, medicine, if you were to have access to that, but you would have had it during your career, what would you have done differently then, and how do you think it would have helped?
Yeah, it's interesting. Things have changed a lot. I didn't really know much about recovery, for example. These days, it's you jump in the ice bath and massage, and the players have this whole routine that they go through after their matches, and they're recovering exceptionally well. For example, I'm just thinking back when Djokovic played a 5-hour match against Murray in the semis of the Australian Open, and then only a day later played a 6-hour match against Nadal. I just could never have done that. So I think he jumps in the hyperbaric chamber and all sorts of stuff. I'm probably not up to date with all of it, but I know it's very advanced. I think with Andy Murray, he was actually getting his blood taken, and they were testing to see what minerals he needed to top up on, and that sort of stuff. Look, later in the week, for me personally, it got hard once I got to the semi-finals and the finals were played on Saturday and Sunday. So I actually lost 11 finals. I won 4 and I lost 11, but quite a few of those were because I had a very hard semi-final, and I just hadn't recovered well enough for the final. So with that scientific background, I think it could have made it a pretty good difference for me. But I was maybe in the same boat as a lot of other players as well. I'm not sure if everyone understood recovery that well. I'm sure some players did, but I was perhaps a little bit behind there. I just didn't sort of think about it maybe enough. But I did what I could, and stretching and massage and all that. But there's a lot of stuff now that the players are doing that have sort of moved past all that. Pretty amazing.
Yeah. It's like that in business now, isn't it, Bram? Like, I mean, the ability to analyze, not only the external market, but also internally. There's a lot that can be done. And the way that it used to get done was you'd bring someone in, and they would analyze, and you depend on their skills and their effort, their genuine effort to assist your business. Like a consultant will pop in for a period or a set engagement, but then hop off, and there's no real skin in the game, isn't there? Like, you want someone to buy in and really want to, yeah, that's right. But today the tools that are available for business owners are just phenomenal. I mean, AI-based tools, systematic type analysis. I mean, everything's digitally recorded now. Back in the day, you probably have a hybrid approach where records are kept on documents, like physical documents, and numbers will be on receipts. Now everything's in the cloud. It's on a system. You can cut dice. You can cross-reference. You can do all sorts of things today in business. And so I think the message there from Richard's example is understand the science in behind the business, and start to learn about the wonderful tools that are out there to do so. And coming into the break is just a perfect time. December and January is upon us. Probably a great time for every business owner to pivot and take a look under the hood and try and set the way forwards. All right, well, we're going to be wrapping up. I've got to ask a question of Richard, and I've got it written down here. So look, every invitee gets to ask this question in terms of the closing comments, Richard. So if there's one piece of advice you could give to, let's say in this example, anyone looking to develop talent, whatever sport or tutelage, whatever it might be, it could even be music, could be sport, it could be anything at all. but of a person that's coached people professionally and juniors for such a long time and successfully, what would be the one piece of advice you would give anyone looking to assist their children or assist their students get the best out of themselves?
Look, I think really good preparation is key. I think encouraging the kid to always do their best and really have a go, not be afraid to make mistakes, not be afraid to get things wrong, be well read, really focus hard and study on what you're doing, and good preparation, make sure then that when the bell goes, you're ready to go. And at the same time, enjoy the experience. And it's with tennis, it's very hard to sort of keep this massively high intensity and super serious right through your career. You've got to actually enjoy the matches. You've got to enjoy the whole process, enjoy training, but at the same time, don't waste time. Try and make the most of it. Practice with a lot of purpose is really important. Have some things written down that you really want to try and improve on, and be well prepared. But have the sessions set out for you really well. All those types of things. It's the same with students. It's the same in business, I'm sure. Make sure you have great preparation, and you're one step ahead of everyone else.
Speak my language.
So it's a long journey. I can definitely vouch for that. All right, beautiful. Well, Richard, thank you so much. Thank you for our relationship over the years as well. You're definitely the ice in my space. So, always keeping me cool, calm and collected. Bram, good to see you, mate. Hope you're well, and thank you for joining us. And Kylie, obviously not with us today, but I'm sure she'll be avidly watching this episode later on, and she'll be joining us in the next episode. So thank you to everyone for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed it. Richard Fromberg, congratulations on a wonderful career. Thank you for your insights and your contribution to Australian sport. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bram.
Pleasure. Thank you.